You'll be able to send payment requests and do recurring payments and a whole bunch of like PayPal-like, bank-like features, but on a completely decentralized system.
Dash. Why? Why Dash? Why this cryptocurrency? Why is it so innovative? What's the difference between why I would invest in Ethereum and Bitcoin versus Dash?
So Dash stands for Digital Cash for a reason. It's meant to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Anyone who knows anything about cryptocurrency thinks that phrase is familiar because that was the title of the Bitcoin white paper. This is the whole reason why the whole field came to be, was because we need better money that's easier to use, faster, and completely trustless and free from coercion and censorship. Mm-hmm. And so Dash does that better than any other money alive. It's extremely cheap, has ways of confirming transactions in 1.3 seconds, where something like, say, Bitcoin may take 10 minutes or 20 minutes or however long until blocks come through, and also has completely anonymous transactions. What really excites me about Dash is that it's a decentralized autonomous organization. It means it has a group and a structure to it without any head or any restriction on who gets to do it. It's sort of like a living, breathing organism. And so we had a lot of good decentralized distributed tech out there. Not a lot of them have a way of coming together as one, and not a lot of them are free from outside influences and can kind of fund themselves and run themselves.
So how is that working like as a company? I mean, we think about, traditionally companies have a CEO and they kind of have a centralized system and kind of management that makes those decisions. How are you guys operating differently? Like, what's your role within Dash, and then how are others participating in kind of helping it grow and flourish?
So the Dash, with Bitcoin or similar currencies, miners run the whole network. All the rewards go to miners. With Dash, that's 50-50 between miners and masternodes, which are a special kind of incentivized node that have to prove they own 1,000 Dash in order to run. So they have skin in the game, kind of like investors. Okay. The masternodes vote for 10% of the budget every month. Of the new coins that are created, 10% is available to fund originally development, right? Sure. But instead of just it goes to this one team of developers, they have to put in a budget proposal, and then the masternodes decide if they want to fund it or not, and if it does, it just gets created straight from the blockchain, straight from nothing to that. So the early days...
You guys are, in a sense, creating value out of that.
Well, it's sort of like, same thing with any other cryptocurrency that's mined, except 10% of this, instead of getting distributed to miners, is able to be distributed at discretion based on what would provide value to the network. The biggest thing that provides value to the network, obviously, is development, making the code better. And so that's why the Dash core team is like 70 full-time employees right now. It's like a massive development team. But then there's crazy people like me. So myself and a couple other partners, in the beginning of 2017, founded this group called Dash Forks, and where we thought there's a lot of great things going on in Dash, but there's not a lot of outreach. There's no news is not fairly covering Dash. There's not a lot of merchant support on the ground. There's not a lot of advocates. There's not a lot of people going to conferences. We're going to create a group that is the street team for Dash. And so without permission from the core team or anything, the three of us just said, hey, we want to create this. Masternodes, what do you think? And they've been funding us for, I guess, a year and a half now. Wow. And that's what happens. And this whole sponsorship was my plan. I decided that after seeing the core team, they go to conferences as well, but they go to payments-focused conferences. They still go to cryptocurrency conferences, but start focusing on like Money 2020 and other places where you have like the banking industry and PayPal and Venmo show up at, to figuring that's a much better target audience than just the good old tired echo chamber of the cryptoverse. Yep. And so I decided to do that with the Liberty Movement, with people who are ready to start using something other than government currency for their day-to-day lives. And so I said, I'm going to put in a proposal to sponsor a few conferences and have a presence at all of these. And I got funded, and it got created straight from the blockchain and straight into my professional wallet. And then I paid all the sponsorships and paid everyone's travel, and then here we are. interesting because anyone with it's sort of like entrepreneurship, radical entrepreneurship with venture capital at everyone's fingertips. That if someone has a great idea of how to build some great innovation on the Dash network, as long as it helps Dash, which means gets more people using it,
Yes.
then people are going to vote for it. You can do it, and then anyone can work for Dash. So I work for Dash just as much as the developers who made Dash.
Yeah. Okay, so that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm blown away by how you kind of just entered the system, said, I have an idea, let me be a part of creating that idea. Let me participate in making that happen, and then let me put it kind of as a to the vote. Let me put it to the people, and if people agree that this adds value, then let's make that happen.
Yeah.
That's amazing for doing things to support an event like Voice and Exit or a festival of some kind. What happens if it doesn't keep growing? You know what I mean? Like, it's easy to do that when you have like that 10%, and essentially cryptocurrencies as a whole right now are gaining volume and mass, and the space is kind of gaining that momentum. But is there a limit to that? And then I guess in that scenario you pivot and you switch the model, or you guys feel like you will always be committed to this 10%?
I think it'll always be somewhere around there. Just there are some other coins, for example, that might have a 70% treasury because they're smaller, their market cap isn't as big, and they need more money to get started right away with all these promotional ventures.
Yep.
The reason why Dash has value is not because it's a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. It's because it's supposed to be very useful as currency. I can send anything, any amount of money to anyone, anywhere in the world, and have it permanently settled in 1.3 seconds for about a penny. That's powerful. And for a little bit more, I can do that and have it completely anonymous and untraceable. And that's where the value comes from that then feeds into the DAO. But you have to be useful for someone. It can't just be a self-fulfilling prophecy of a creation. It has to be something that works to serve humankind. Otherwise, it wouldn't really function.
So how many people are using it now? Not particularly Dash, but like what's, and I know that it's hard to know how many people have bought into the cryptocurrency and understand the wallets and all of those things.
Yeah.
Where are we at right now? Like, where are we at, and where do you see it going? How soon can I show up here at a movie theater, a random movie theater, and buy my passes in some form of cryptocurrency, hopefully a Dash?
Well, if you go to the Voice and Exit store over there, you can buy stuff with Dash. You go to that food truck right outside, you can buy your falafel wrap.
But that's
Dash.
within this container of.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
Yes.
That's in the container of you guys came and sponsored.
so-
it's not. I can't go outside in downtown Austin, Texas, necessarily just yet, and go to any location or most locations. It doesn't have to be any.
It's
but-
very soon.
Yeah.
And this has been one of the challenges of the space. I've seen a lot of people have come up with amazing technology and talked about what it's going to be used for, and then that's kind of it. It's kind of stopped at that speculative level, and that includes a lot of different currencies, and that includes Dash. For the first couple of years, it was just very useful as a tool, but then the bridge of that to who's actually using it is the hard part, and so that's why the Dash core team's business development department has been very hard at working at different integrations and things solving the business pain points. And there are a few different. Here we go again with the DAO. There's another point of sale provider that just has a proposal in right now before the Dash network to get their point of sale system funded, so that they can. And part of that's going to include a Dash back program, where if you spend $10 in Dash at a retailer, you get $1 back, and the retailer gets $1 back, subsidized by the Dash network, and to actually put bounties on getting merchants to take it. So just creating all these economic incentives to make this happen. So this kind of stuff has been ignored for the longest time, and now you have a bunch of different, the core team, a point of sale system, people like me going out there and trying to find how do we integrate into your site? How do you convert to dollars if you need to? How do you not convert to dollars? And then there's always going to be a few big companies like Overstock.com takes Dash. Cheapair.com pays Dash, which is how I was able to buy my hotel room and airfare out here. And there's a bunch of big things that can happen once you get a little bit of that groundswell of adoption. But part of it just has to do with who really needs it. Those people use it first, even if it's inconvenient. So for example, Venezuela has well over 150 businesses taking Dash right now. And that's only growing exponentially because of their currency problems at the moment. And once you have giant pockets of the world all over the place doing this, then the rest of the slow to adopt first world, let's say, is going to see, wow, I can get a lot of international customers on my border shop doing here. And then you see point of sale systems like, say, Square, for example, that just say, you know, this Apple Pay and you know, cards and stuff like that, there's a lot of inefficiencies. If I take cryptocurrencies, it's easier to use and it's going to be much more cost effective. And so I'll just do that, and then merchants can all
So do you think they're going to take that on? Do you think somebody like Square says, how quickly would you guess that Square seeds and says, you know what, you're right, it is more efficient, because it is, there's no doubt about it.
They're waiting very, very soon. I don't know when, but I do remember in 2014 or 15, Square did integrate Bitcoin payments into its platform, online only.
Yes.
And they were working on a Bitcoin-specific point-of-sale system that never ended up materializing. And then Bitcoin ran into some network problems and wasn't used as much as a payment system anymore. And so there's still been, I believe the CEO's been talking about it. I've seen some tweets about talking about, well, you're integrating this, and they're thinking maybe Bitcoin with a Lightning Network or something like that. But at some point, the easiest thing to integrate, which I believe Dash is going to win out, especially since Dash is working on this platform called Evolution, that is going to have what they call the DAPI, or the Decentralized API, where you'll be able to easily hook up businesses and other products into the Dash network to make it really easy to accept payments, which, by the way, instead of long cryptographic hashes that are current public key cryptography, that's going to still exist back end, but front end they're going to be easy to use usernames. And you'll be able to send payment requests and do recurring payments and a whole bunch of like PayPal-like, bank-like features, but on a completely decentralized system. And that's really going to tip adoption over the edge.
Amazing. So I want to see it in action. I know you guys are giving out Dash to different people. I've already received some, but I would love to see him do it. I want to show that process. So let's make that happen.
There we go. The new wallet. When did you hit generator?
Okay,
you're good to go. My wallet is right there. This is a QR code.
So let me open mine.
So for those who don't fully understand, this is basically your address. It's like having a bank account number. It's a unique address just to you and to your wallet.
And this QR code contains that address.
Yes, exactly. So there's an address, like a string of lines and numbers. That's basically that address. And then as simple as literally pulling up.
I'm hitting send.
It's sitting.
So it's gonna scan that.
Boom.
Instantly.
Scans it.
That address gets put in there.
So I double check that always.
Yep.
And then he's gonna put $20 USD, which translates to a little over 0.05 Dash today.
So we're gonna send that over. And
you received Dash.
Just that fast.
And it's asking for you to generate your recovery phrase. You can do that later.
And now go to your, look at the number right at the top. I can see the $20 that has been added, $20 and minus 10 cents that has been literally brought to your wallet in just that fast.
Sort of like when you swipe a credit card, the payment goes through, but it doesn't get settled. It's not for real until like a few days later.
Yeah.
So the same thing happens with any cryptocurrency. Shows up instantly, but isn't confirmed.
Yes.
But Dash has a function called Instant Send that locks the inputs of the transaction, that in 1.3 seconds you can just walk away and be it's good.
Completely confirmed. There's no way of reversing it. There's no way of changing it. It's almost like a self-accounting system where now all of a sudden all of this stuff is done in a most effective, efficient way.
Of course.
Across borders that there is.
Yes. And a friend of mine who works in the finance industry said that Dash is the only major payment system in the world that offers instant permanent settlement. And if you're in the finance world, you know that means a lot.
Yeah.
And for everyone else, it just means you can go boom and it's done forever. You don't need to worry.
But what stops the next person from making that same thing?
From trying to double spend the transaction?
Exactly.
There's the second tier.
What stops somebody from making dirt tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden saying like, we do it and we maybe do it faster somehow.
Well, part of there have been a few that have tried that.
Sure.
The thing is, there's always going to be one Dash, and one Dash will always be the power of its network effect. That's the thing, is you have, like with a company, you can't copy and paste companies.
Yes.
You can copy and paste the code structure of any cryptocurrency that's open source, right?
Yes.
And Dash is open source. So you copy and paste any of that, but you can't copy and paste the people using it. There's still people. There's still the development team that happens to be involved at that point. There's still people like me. You can't copy and paste me, or you can't just say, you're working for Dart now. Like, no, I'm not. And you can't get users to just go in and do something else. That is sort of what happened with Bitcoin Cash. There's a split, and then now there's two. And I've seen the Bitcoin Cash community have to go through the effort of convincing new people to, oh, you got to use this, or going to the old payment processors, everything they used to do, and saying, oh, well, you used to take Bitcoin, we're still Bitcoin, but you can't take us yet because you need to do a few modifications and flip some switches. And I just the other day, actually this week, someone sent a bunch of Bitcoin to a Bitcoin Cash address, an old format address, and now it's like they have to go in, they have to import that private key into a wallet that accepts both, and then they have to, it's not as easy, it's kind of messy to do that. And so anything going through that same kind of process would do the same thing. So like Dash is largely the same. I mean, there have been a bunch of improvements over the last year, but Dash is, for example, the fees have gotten lowered every few months, for one thing, and a few little patches. Other than that, the code is nearly identical for practical purposes as it was about a year ago, yet the market cap and everything is so much higher because more people
because it's more useful in the system of day-to-day life, of day-to-day transactions.
And that's the thing about, that's what makes all these decentralized tools work, is they are nothing. They're absolutely nothing, but you got to plug people into them. They're people tools.
Money is literally the biggest religion on the planet. And it's because we all just believe that it has value, and that it holds that value between us, and it creates a space between us in which we say, this is the thing that we choose to trade in. This is the thing that we both commonly believe is valuable to us at this very moment.
Yes, exactly. All value is belief.
And so destroying that religion, then saying, well, why not have the version or the religion of Dash or the religion of the next one, without being so dogmatic, right? This is actually quite practical. It's significantly better, significantly faster, and it's not controlled by the capitalistic kind of one centralized, Federal Reserve banking system, for example, that prints more or creates more debt than there is money, for example, where we owe back. Instead of this 10% that you guys are forking out to create more value, they're actually taking the percentage and honing it back and saying, no, you owe me this in interest. So I've never understood that. I never understood why building a paradigm that didn't make mathematical sense would become the paradigm that we choose to use and choose to be valuable. The last question I'll ask you is, and this is maybe the way of like saying, how deep and how invested are you in this, is, would you say that you have more in cryptocurrency? Are you actually walking around on a day-to-day basis with your own personal wealth, more so in cryptocurrency than you would in regular cash? Is that part of, or starting to become part of where you're at with it at this point?
There's a 20 in there. That's the fiat I own.
So everything else you own is pretty much in cryptocurrencies and Dash?
Absolutely.
Wow. That says it all. That says it all. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.